a shot. Just try it. Brandy, stay back. Oh. First story. This happened recently. I live in a remote part of Nebraska, and my older cousin and I were driving home from a hardware store in town, cruising at about 50 mph down a long stretch of road surrounded by fields. I'm not exaggerating when I say clowns began emerging from the tall grass to our left. 9 or 10 of them, all staring at us. They stretched out their arms as if trying to grab the truck. I was driving and my cousin shouted, "Holy crap, seriously?" as we passed a few. One clown, either reckless or struggling to see in his mask, got too close to the road. I hit the brakes, not to stop, but to slow down. Seeing us decelerate, they rushed the truck. Panicked, I floored the gas and clipped one with the front right side, knocking him onto the pavement. The others started yelling and pounding on the truck instead of helping him. My cousin told me to park, then pulled out an unloaded handgun from under the seat, his dad's, with a broken firing pan. He rolled down the window and aimed it at them. They backed off instantly. "Give me a reason," he growled. Silence followed as they retreated slightly, but not enough for me to speed away safely. My cousin gestured to the "evilclown." "Is he okay?" The guy started crawling away and another helped him up. "Make a space, my cousin ordered, waving the gun. They cleared a path. I shifted into drive and inched forward. "We've got a dash cam, so don't bother calling the cops," he lied, keeping the gun trained on them until we were clear. Watching those clumps of clowns shrink in the rearview was surreal. My cousin stashed the gun and muttered about hoping the headlight wasn't cracked. Back home, we cracked open beers and watched TV, never mentioning it to his dad. We didn't actually have a dash cam, but they didn't know that. Next time, I won't break. Second story. Last Thanksgiving, my boyfriend and I drove from Miami to Naples with our 2-month-old daughter to visit family. Nervous new parents, we packed for every scenario. We left around noon, hitting heavy holiday traffic. After an hour, the baby got fussy, so we pulled into a rest stop. While I changed her, my boyfriend called my name. Across the parking lot, a clown with a purple star on his face, wild black hair, and a checkered outfit waved at passing cars. I shrugged it off as some promo. As we left, he waved again, then flashed a terrifying grin and shouted through the closed window, "You'd look amazing draped over my lap." I repeated it to my boyfriend, who wanted to confront him, but I talked him out of it. We arrived in Naples by 2:30, and I forgot about it until our late-night return trip. My boyfriend, exhausted, asked me to drive. We pulled into a desolate rest area, just a parking lot looped back to the road. He parked facing a chain-link fence, trees and swamp beyond. The baby fussed as I checked on her. Then came the sound of metal scraping. The clown from earlier, now with a red-stained costume, dragging a broken bottle along the fence. He pressed his face into the gaps, leering. My boyfriend lunged out, screaming, "Get in the car!" The clown started singing a twisted lullaby as the baby wailed. My boyfriend hurled a glass at him, shattering against the fence. The clown bolted. We sped off, hearts pounding, certain he'd chase us. The rest of the drive was spent in shaken disbelief. This Thanksgiving we're staying home. Third story. Most people picture female clowns as playful or seductive, but not this one. In 2012, walking home at night in Gilbert, Arizona, I spotted a figure sitting cross-legged in a lit park. Moving closer, I saw a young woman in clown makeup, white face, red and black shapes on her cheeks, mismatched lips. She wore a hoodie with holes for her pigtails, torn jeans, and a clawed glove. I backed away, but she called, "Where are you going? Come here." I declined. She grinned, too wide, flashing excessive teeth, and raised her glove. Tipped wit, these sharp points. "You sure? More for me than Sean." She pulled out a kitchen knife and started hacking at a dead bird. I stumbled onto the sidewalk, scanning for hidden cameras, but we were alone. Power walking away, I glanced back. She was following. At a crosswalk, I sprinted across despite traffic. She waved, feathers falling from her glove, and shouted something like, "Don't get killed tonight." I ran home, locked myself in, and watched through the peephole. The next day, the bird's remains were still there. Weeks later, I spotted her again in daylight, dragging a trash bag. She pulled out a dead rat, gutted it, then flipped me an obscene gesture. One I'd only ever used myself. I sped off. My friend still sees her around. Fourth story. During the 2016 clown scare, I lived on a secluded wooded property in Connecticut. My kids played freely until my 8-year-old ran inside one afternoon, saying a clown was in the driveway, pointing at them. I dismissed it at first, but stepped outside to see a figure in pink and blue stripes by the trees, gesturing at my other kids. We herded them inside, grabbed a stun gun, and drove out, calling my husband. The clown jogged away, but turned when he heard my car. His face was painted and he held a croquet mallet. He vanished into the woods. I searched for a getaway car, but found nothing. That night, I thought I saw movement outside. The next morning, a purple balloon was tied to our mailbox, and a plant nearby was smashed. Days later, the clown returned, this time with a sledgehammer, according to my kids. I borrowed my parents' protective dog, Groucho. Days passed quietly until I spotted the clown sneaking through the woods. Groucho barked furiously. Then my daughter called. Another clown in orange and blue was on our deck. I raced back as Groucho chased the first clown into the trees. The second fled when I arrived. Groucho returned limping, stabbed with something sharp. Police later arrested 2 men with dog bites miles away. Groucho recovered, and we've had no trespassers since. The effort they put into terrorizing us felt like more than a prank, maybe an initiation. Either way, they picked the wrong family. Here's the continuation of the rewritten text. 5th story. A few years back, I was working the night shift at a gas station in rural Ohio. The place was dead most nights, just the occasional trucker stopping for fuel. Around 2 a.m., a car pulled up. An old, rusted sedan with mismatched doors. The driver stayed inside, but the passenger got out. At first, I thought it was just some drunk guy stumbling in for snacks. Then, I saw the face. He was dressed like a clown. Not the fun kind, but the kind that makes your stomach drop. White face paint cracked around his mouth, smeared red lips stretched too wide, and black grease around his eyes that made them look hollow. His clothes were dirty, like he'd been rolling in mud, and his shoes squeaked on the tile as he shuffled toward the counter. I forced myself to stay calm. Maybe it was just some weirdo trying to scare me. But then he leaned over the counter, close enough that I could smell something sour on his breath, and whispered, "You ever see what happens when a balloon pops?" I didn't answer, just reached under the counter where we kept a baseball bat. He noticed and let out this wet, gurgling laugh before turning and walking out. The car peeled away before he even shut the door. I called the cops, but they never found the guy. The weirdest part? When I checked the security footage later, the car's license plate was completely blurred, like it had been smeared with grease. 6th story. This one's short, but still freaks me out. My buddy used to live in an apartment complex with a shared laundry room in the basement. One night, he went down to switch his clothes over and found a clown sitting on top of one of the dryers. Legs crossed, hands folded, just staring at the wall. No mask, no makeup, just a guy in a full clown suit, totally still. My buddy noped out of there and called security. By the time they showed up, the clown was gone. The only trace? A single red balloon tied to the door handle of his apartment when he got back. He moved out 2 weeks later. Clowns are supposed to be funny, but when you see one where they should be, when they're just watching, not performing, it flips something primal in your brain. Maybe it's the uncanny valley of a human face twisted into something fake. Maybe it's the way they move, too deliberate, like they're playing a role even when no one's laughing. Or maybe it's the fear that they're not playing at all. Either way, if you ever see one where it doesn't belong, run. Don't wait to find out the punchline. 7th story. I used to work security at an abandoned amusement park. One of those places that shut down in the 90s but never got torn down. The company hired me to patrol at night, mostly to keep out vandals and urban explorers. Most nights were quiet, just the wind whistling through broken rides and the occasional raccoon rustling in the trash. Then one night, I saw the carousel moving. Not just creaking in the wind, moving, like it was turned on. The painted horses bobbing up and down in slow, jerky circles. The music was broken, so it just groaned like a dying animal as it spun. I radioed my partner, thinking maybe some kids had gotten in and messed with the controls. But when we got closer, we saw him. A clown sitting on one of the horses, perfectly still, facing forward like he was part of the ride. He wasn't there when we first arrived. I know he wasn't. But suddenly, there he was, slumped on that horse like he'd been riding it for hours. His outfit was faded, like it had been left out in the rain too long, and his face was smeared with makeup that had run down his cheeks in black streaks. We shouted at him to get down. He didn't move, just kept staring ahead as the carousel kept turning. My partner climbed onto the platform to grab him, and the second he touched the clown's shoulder, the power cut out. The carousel stopped dead. The clown was gone. We searched the whole park, nothing. No footprints, no open gates, no sign of how he got in or out. The weirdest part, when we checked the security footage, the carousel was never moving. Just two idiots shouting at empty air. I quit the next day. 8th story. My sister used to sleepwalk when we were kids. Nothing crazy, just wandering into the kitchen or standing in the hallway blank-eyed before going back to bed. But one night, when she was about 10, she woke me up by shaking my shoulder. "There's a clown in my room," she whispered. I figured it was just a nightmare, so I walked her back to bed. But when I opened her door, I saw it. A tall figure in a patchwork suit standing in the corner, face painted white with a permanent grin. It didn't move, just watched us. I grabbed my sister and ran to my parents' room. By the time my dad turned on the lights and checked, the clown was gone. No open windows, no footprints, nothing. My sister swore she'd never seen him before. A week later, we found a Polaroid tucked under her pillow. It was a picture of her sleeping, taken from the corner of the room, right where the clown had been standing. We moved that summer. Last words. People laugh when you say you're scared of clowns. They think it's some silly phobia, like being afraid of spiders or the dark. But the thing about clowns is that they choose to look like that. They want you to feel uneasy. A spider's just a spider. The dark is just the absence of light. But a clown? A clown knows what it's doing. And that's the real horror. 9th story. I was a paramedic for 12 years. Saw plenty of weird stuff, but nothing like the call we got to the old circus grounds on the edge of town. Dispatch said it was a possible cardiac arrest, but when we rolled up, the big top was dark, the gates wide open like someone had left in a hurry. Inside we found him, an old clown, maybe in his 60s, sprawled in the center ring. His makeup was perfect, like he'd just finished a show, but his chest wasn't moving. No pulse. We started CPR anyway, standard procedure. But then my partner froze and pointed at the guy's hands. His fingers were sewn together. Not tied, not taped, sewn. Crude black stitches lacing each fingertip to the next, the thread biting into swollen flesh. And when I lifted his shirt to place the defib pads, I saw more stitches crisscrossing his torso in jagged lines, like someone had tried to piece him back together after he'd already fallen apart. We called it. Time of death, 3:17 AEME. The cop showed up and asked if we'd seen anyone else, but the place was empty. Later, when I checked the paperwork, I saw the coroner's note. Subject appears to have been deceased for approximately 72 hours prior to discovery. I still don't know who called it in. 10th story. My grandmother's house had one of those old-fashioned porcelain clown dolls in the guest room. Big glass eyes, frilly collar, permanent grin. Creepy as hell, but she loved it. Said it was a gift from her brother when they were kids. After she passed, I was cleaning out the house when I noticed something odd. The clown's head turned slightly every time I entered the room. Not much, just a few degrees, like it had shifted when I wasn't looking. I wrote it off as the floor settling. Then I found the letters. Tucked in the back of her dresser was a stack of envelopes, all addressed to her in shaky handwriting. The first one read, "Martha, I know you think I'm gone, but I'm still here. The clown keeps watching. It won't let me leave." Her brother had disappeared in 1952. They never found a body. I threw the doll in the dumpster that night. Next morning it was back on the guest room bed, its grin wider than before. Final thought. You know why clowns wear those big shoes? So you can't hear them coming. 11th story. The interstate rest stop was empty when I pulled in around midnight. Just my truck and one other car with its dome light on. I figured someone was sleeping inside, until I saw the clown standing beside it. No big entrance, no honking nose. Just a tall figure in a grease-stained yellow suit, staring at the driver's side window with his forehead pressed against the glass. His whole body was perfectly still except for his right hand, which kept slowly opening and closing, like he was practicing a magic trick over and over. I hit my brights. The clown didn't flinch. The car's occupant, a woman in her 20s, was frozen in the driver's seat, her eyes wide and unblinking, not screaming, not honking, just staring straight ahead like if she didn't move, he might go away. I laid on my horn. The clown's head snapped toward me so fast I heard his neck crack. Then he smiled, not at me, but at some private joke, and walked backward into the tree line without breaking eye contact. The woman peeled out before I could ask if she was okay. I reported it to the state troopers, but they never found anyone matching the description. When I checked the news the next day, there was a brief item about a woman found dead in her apartment 30 miles away. No signs of violence, just a terrified expression and a single red balloon tied to her wrist. 12th story. My little brother started sleepwalking again after his 8th birthday. We'd find him standing in the hallway at 3 a.m., whispering numbers in reverse. The doctor said it was stress. My parents bought a baby monitor. Then one night, through the static, we heard the other voice. 6 more minutes, he giggled, high-pitched and wet, like someone talking around a mouthful of candy. Then we'd play hide-and-seek forever. We burst into his room to find the window wide open, curtains fluttering, and on the floor beside his bed, 6 tiny clown shoes, arranged in a perfect circle, the leather still damp with dew. One last thing. There's a reason every culture has some version of the trickster, the jester, the harlequin, the shapeshifter who laughs while the world burns. Clowns are just the modern mask they wear. The real question isn't, why are we afraid of clowns? It's, why do they keep reminding us to be afraid? Sweet dreams. 13th story. The nursing home called me when they found the drawings. My grandfather, Alzheimer's patient, hadn't spoken in years, had filled an entire notebook with crude sketches of the same clown face. Always the same hollow eyes, the same stitched-on smile. The nurses said he'd been whispering, "They're coming back." For weeks, I was flipping through my notebook when the power went out. Emergency lights flickered on, casting long shadows down the hallway. That's when I heard the squeak. Not a mouse, not a shoe. The unmistakable sound of oversized clown shoes on linoleum. I locked the door, called security. They found nothing. But when I returned to my grandfather's room, his notebook was open to a fresh page. A single word scrawled in shaky handwriting. Breathe. He died that night with his hands clamped over his nose and mouth like he was trying to hold something in or keep something out. The carnival was nearly empty when I noticed the missing children posters. 6 kids over 3 years, all last seen near the funhouse. The manager swore it was coincidence. I paid my ticket and went inside. Mirrors twisted my reflection into something grotesque. Laughter tracks played on a loop. Then I turned a corner and saw it. A life-sized clown mannequin standing perfectly still in a dead-end corridor. Except it hadn't been there when I entered. I reached out to touch its sleeve. The fabric was warm. The lights cut out. When they came back on, the mannequin was gone. In its place, 6 small handprints pressed against the glass of a mirror that hadn't been there before. I ran. The exit door led me right back to the funhouse entrance. The manager was gone. The missing posters were gone. Only the clown remained, now standing at the ticket booth, its gloved hand extended, waiting to take my money for one more ride. Final W earning. They say laughter is the best medicine, but some prescriptions come with side effects. Sleep tight. Don't forget to check under the bed. 15th story. The hospital maternity ward was unusually quiet the night my niece was born. No crying babies, no intercom pages, just the hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional squeak of nurses' shoes on waxed floors. I was holding the newborn when I noticed him, a janitor mopping near the nursery window. Something about the way he moved was wrong. His shoulders hitched with each stroke, like a marionette on strings. When he turned, I saw why. The mop wasn't a mop at all. It was a cluster of balloons on a stick, red, blue, and yellow, their ribbons dragging wet trails across the floor. His face was bare, but his hands were covered in grease paint stains. He caught me staring and smiled with teeth too white, too perfect. Then the power went out. When emergency lighting kicked in 30 seconds later, the janitor was gone. Only the wet footprints remained, each one shaped like an oversized clown shoe. The nurses swore no such employee worked there. Security footage showed only me, alone in the hallway, staring at nothing. My sister changed hospitals the next day. They found a single balloon tied to her newborn's crib when they arrived. 16th story. The old toy store had been closed for decades when we broke in. Dusty shelves, cobwebbed displays. My flashlight beam caught something glinting in the far corner. A glass case with one remaining toy, a porcelain clown doll. Its face was cracked, one eye missing, but the other stared with unsettling intensity. I pressed my palm at the glass. The surface was ice cold. Then the doll blinked. We ran. Later, reviewing my friend's phone footage, we saw. In the split second before we turned away, the doll's head tilted. Its remaining eye tracked us, and just before the video cut to static, its stitched mouth stretched into a new shape. Not a smile, a scream. One final truth. Clowns don't haunt places. They haunt moments. That space between breaths, when you realize you're not alone. The heartbeat before laughter turns to screams. The instant you understand, really understand, that some doors shouldn't be opened, especially when you hear giggling on the other side. Go ahead, check the closet. 17th story. The drive-in theater had been abandoned since the ATS, but we still snuck in sometimes to drink beer under the broken screen. That night, the projector suddenly flickered to life, no sound, just grainy, black and white footage of a clown performing for an empty audience. At first we laughed, then we noticed the details. The way his smile twitched like it was stitched on wrong. How his eyes kept darting to something off camera. The moment he accidentally cut his own hand during a magic trick. Except the blood that poured out was black as oil, and just kept coming. The screen went dark. That's when we heard the squeaking behind us. 18th story, my uncle collected ventriloquist dummies. The worst was Mr. Chuckles, a clown puppet with one chipped tooth, and glass eyes that followed you. He kept it in a locked case after it fell off the shelf and broke my cousin's arm. The night after my uncle's funeral, we heard giggling from his study. Mr. Chuckles sat on the desk, strings tangled like he'd been struggling. His jaw was unhinged at an impossible angle. When we picked him up, something rattled inside his hollow body. We never opened him to find out what. The awful realization. You know why they paint those smiles so wide? To make room for all the teeth. Sweet dreams. They're watching from the mirrors now. Final thought. The greatest trick clowns ever pulled, making us believe they're just pretend. Now turn out the lights, and try not to wonder why your reflection just smiled back. End.